Hi, my name is Paul Rush. I'm here today to talk to you about why it is so important to care. I am an acting teacher at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute in Hollywood, California. I teach an acting technique called method acting. Some of the world's most well-known actors have studied this technique. Actors like Al Pacino, Angelina Jolie, Robert De Niro, even Lady Gaga has studied this technique. I have had the honor to work with some of the industry's best writers, best directors, best actors. But before all of that, I was an airman in the US Air Force. I used to work on airplanes, and I dreamed of one day becoming a pilot. And it was during my time in the military that I decided, on a whim, to take an acting class. And I didn't tell anybody about this, especially my commanders, that during my free time, I wanted to play make-believe. And it was at this acting class where I was introduced to method acting by this amazing woman who was in her 70s, and she had studied with Lee Strasberg. In the very first class, she introduced herself as a communist and a lesbian. And I was really shocked, because there I was as this 20-year-old, very basic American from a small town who had never met a communist or a lesbian, for that matter. And I had no idea that my life was about to change. My acting teacher taught me a lot of really important things, but the most important thing that she taught me was why it was so important for the artist to care. She taught me that method acting has two main goals to help accomplish this. First is to create an authentic experience for the actor. And the second, to help that actor be able to express it truthfully. If you think about your favorite TV show, your favorite play, your favorite movie, I can guarantee you that they are about characters, about people who are going through an experience that they really care about. So what is it about us, people, human beings, that crave to hear the same stories told over and over again in just different ways? How many movies do we need to watch about war, overcoming hardship, falling in love? How many of these do we need to see until we get it? Why is it that we idolize actors and artists and musicians? What is it about the human condition that needs to be reminded over and over again how good it feels to care? I think that the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu figured it out when he said, "From caring comes courage." And I love that. From caring comes courage. If we think about our lives, we realize that we are alive right now, in this moment, all of us. Breathing lungs, beating hearts, thinking minds. But because we know that, we have the unfortunate burden of also knowing that we do not know the future. Apart from one undeniable truth, that life does end. And because we know that, it can be really difficult to care sometimes. What is the point? That is why we idolize actors and artists and musicians. They remind us how good it feels to care. Luckily, life is filled with wonderful and terrible and sometimes boring experiences, and I'm really hoping that this experience is one of the wonderful ones. One day in class, my 75-year-old communist acting teacher asked me to think of a moment in my life, a memory, where I got to witness someone else experience emotion, which I thought was really interesting because I thought that as the actor, I needed to experience the emotion. But a memory came to mind rather quickly. I told her about the time that I had graduated from basic training in the U.S. Air Force. I graduated number 1 of my entire flight. Over 400 people voted on by my fellow airmen. I had won a series of awards, and I was feeling really confident about my future. I think I even grew a few inches taller, but that was probably the military boots. My parents flew 2,000 miles from their hometown to surprise me. And while they were in town, we decided to go to this museum to see an impressionist exhibit. My mother is a phenomenal portrait artist, and she had never seen Monet's or Renoir's up close. We'd only seen, photos of these paintings. And we're looking at this one painting, and this young girl, she's wearing a beautiful dress. She's sitting in a theater, she's looking straight out at us. I'm looking at her, and I think she's bored. Or maybe I was bored, I'm not sure. But I'm admiring the painting for the difficulty that it took for the artist to be able to paint this. The skill that it took for him to, use a paintbrush. And I'm ready to move on to the next painting, and I look up, and I see my father. And my father is standing by the exit of the museum because he's ready to leave and move on to dinner. And I look at my mom to see if she too is ready to move on to dinner. And instead, my mother is crying. Silently. Not a sound. Tears are just falling down her face. And I look back at the painting to see what I might have missed. I looked back at my mom, I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. My acting teacher said, okay, I want you to recreate that memory using only your senses. What did you actually see? What did you actually hear, smell, taste, touch? Okay. I saw the redness of my mother's cheeks. I saw the trail of water that her tears left behind. I heard the shallow inhale of her breath as she tried to catch it. I smelled that museum smell that all museums seem to have. I tasted the dryness in my mouth from not knowing what to say. I felt the fabric of the pockets in my uniform as I nervously put my hands into them. My acting teacher said, okay, and what do you feel right now? And once again, I didn't know what to say. But I had realized in that moment of re-experiencing that time in my life that as an artist, you never know who needs that painting, who needs that story, who needs that music, but I can guarantee you that somebody needs it more than the artist ever did. In fact, I realize that it is the artist's responsibility to experience these things and to express them and have care while doing so. And as the philosopher said, through caring, have courage to face life for everything that it has to offer and to help the audience do the same thing. So what was it about feeling the fabric in my pockets and hearing my mother's shallow inhale that gave me this realization that art is not for the artist, art is for the audience? Well, goal number 1 with Lee Strasberg's method acting technique is to create an authentic experience. And if you consider your lives and how you actually experience them, You'll realize that you experience your life through your senses, what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you touch, what you smell. Unfortunately, we are also creatures of habit. Our minds and our bodies are constantly engaged with how to survive and just get by. I mean, we learn how to talk, how to walk, how to smile, how to laugh, how loud to talk indoors. We learn all these things through habit, how to get by. And if we're not careful, the next thing you'll realize is that your life is just going by. That is why we need artists and actors and musicians to remind us. And I know that some of you might be thinking that your lives would be so much easier if you just didn't care so much. But one of our great modern-day philosophers, Winnie the Pooh, said, some people care too much. I think it's called love. I was asked one day to give notes on a script at a table reading. And one of the actors in this cast is an absolute legend in our industry. Now, I'm not going to tell you who he is, but you might recognize him from one of his most famous lines, and I'm going to butcher it, but it goes something like, say hello to my little friend. And I'm sitting there, and I'm supposed to give notes on this script. And the script is not good. It's bad. And I'm watching this actor, and I notice that he has his arms wrapped around the pages of the script. His head is low to the table, like he is starving and protecting his food. And I'm watching him as he's bringing his attention to the character. He's bringing his attention to what the character is experiencing. And I was reminded about a time in my life when I was up for a really big role in a really big movie opposite a really big actor. And again, I won't tell you who he was because there's a rule from one of his films, and it's rule number 1, you do not talk about Fight Club. And I'm up for this role, and the script is not good. The script's not good. And I find myself not caring. I don't care about the character. I don't care about the story. I don't care what the character is experiencing. The only thing I cared about was how I looked. Was I funny? How cool can I be without being 2 inches taller? In fact, I allowed myself not to care so much that at one stage in the audition, I made a joke about the script. I won't give you too many guesses to figure out that I did not get the part. And I'm thinking about this as I'm watching this icon read a bad script with his arms wrapped around the pages and his head low to the table, caring about the character, caring about the experience. And once again, I was reminded that through caring comes courage. My one goal as a teacher in this industry is to help my students care. So the next time you find yourself saying, I don't care, take a moment and ask yourself, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you taste? What do you touch? What do you smell? And if that doesn't work, watch your favorite movie. Read your favorite book. Listen to your favorite song. And be reminded again how good it feels to care. Thank you.